Sports Hall of Fame. The Texas Sports Hall of Fame, which had an inaugural list of the great media members of all time in Texas, Blackie Sherrod, among others, will induct new members into the Media Hall of Fame that will include some of the guys who have been guests on this show, including, Shereen Williams, Brad Sham, Randy Galloway, and another one, and a couple of others we've had on before, but also the great John McClain. John, how are your thoughts about that? I know it's a while down the road.
Well, I was blown away when they informed me it was 2 years ago, and we've been unable to have the event because of the pandemic. And I felt terrible for the people at the Hall of Fame because they had to do their regular Hall of Fame banquet, and they had to do the high school Hall of Fame banquet. So I thought when we voted now about 17 years ago, that original class, you mentioned Blackie Sherrod, Dave Campbell, Vern Lundquist, Dan Jenkins, Kern Tips, Frank Fallon, Jack Dale, Mickey Erskowitz, that we would never have another one because nobody could equal that group, and that's a fact. And then all decided, well, let's do it again. And I'm proud to say I am the only one outside of the Metroplex. The others, Frank Gleber, let's see, Frank, and you mentioned Randy and Shereen
Sham.
and Brad Sham. I'm the only one that's not from the Metroplex, and I think I'm going to have to get like 3 tables, and I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a great event. I hope people will support it, and I always hope they support the Texas Sports Hall of Fame, which is one of Waco's best organizations and best tourist stops. When I'm telling friends, when they come to Baylor games or they want to go see Chip and Joanna, I always tell them, stop at the Texas Sports Hall of Fame, Texas Rangers Hall of Fame, and the Dr. Pepper Museum. Not many people realize Dr. Pepper originated in Waco.
Denny Freeman, Bill Mercer, and Eric Nadel, the voice of the Rangers, also a part of that list as well. It's May 21st. Go to the Texas Sports Hall of Fame website for more information on tickets. Paul?
Love my man, Denny. What a great guy. John, the free agency underway. The Deshaun Watson sweepstakes is underway. And am I correct in assuming that everybody kind of knows what the compensation package will be? This is just Deshaun Watson telling the Texans who he'll waive his no-trade clause to?
Well, first of all, you're right. He's got a no-trade clause, so he can dictate everything. I'm writing a column as we speak. What if, say, Carolina offers 3 1s, 2 2s, and 2 young defensive starters, and New Orleans offers 2 1s and 2 2s? Well, that's not fair. And if Watson said, I'm only going to the Saints, I'm not going to Carolina or Atlanta or anywhere else, then the only thing the Texans could do would be say, look, we're not going to take a low-ball offer for you, so if you don't agree to go to Carolina, we'll just let you sit out another season, and we'll pay you $35 million, like we paid you $10.54 million, to come to work every day, go to meetings, work out on your own, and generally be miserable while you sit out a second consecutive season. Now, people go, oh, my God, $35 million. We're talking about people whose franchises are worth multiple billions and who make $300 million a year just from TV money. All the expenses are paid before before they get money from gambling, and they say they're divvying up $300 million from gambling this year with a target of $1 billion in 5 years, and that's before memorabilia, selling a ticket, a beer, a parking space. So $35 million is chump change. So would he want to sit out a second consecutive year? Would his agent, David Mulligetta of Austin, tell him, they're bluffing, stick to your guns, they want to trade you, they want to use this draft with those picks? So hopefully for the Texans and Watson, all the offers will be similar, and they'll be able to trade him where he wants to go. I've been saying I thought it would be Carolina or New Orleans, and then the Falcons pop up with a terrible cap problem, with their best receiver being suspended, with them not having a lot of talent at wideout, and with Matt Ryan's contract so bad they had to restructure to get him from $48 million against the cap to $36. So they're almost destitute. But He's from Gainesville, Georgia. His close friend and longtime quarterback guru, Quincy Avery, lives there. And Watson spends a whole lot of time in Atlanta.
And, John, what was it he was doing today? It was just as part of the civil lawsuits. Is that right?
Craig, he's still got the 22 civil lawsuits accusing him of sexual assault and misconduct. It's his second day of depositions. That'll take multiple days. It's amazing to me when a grand jury decided Friday not to file charges, teams lined up despite those 22 civil suits. Mm-hmm. I thought they would want those civil suits to be settled in court or settled by Watson, but teams don't seem to care. And they don't seem to be worried about a possible suspension by Roger Goodell, because the bottom line is this. At some point, the suspension be over, the legal issues would be behind him, and he'd be a great quarterback for 10, 12 more years.
So, John, well, everybody was waiting around for Selection Sunday. March Madness got pushed right out of the way practically by some big NFL news when Tom Brady announced that he was going to be coming back for yet another season. Any surprise on your end, and just your thoughts on Brady coming back to Tampa?
It's good for him. It's good for the Bucs. It's good for the NFL, and it's especially good for television. You can imagine the television comes out usually about a week after the draft, and all those people at the league office, they're like, oh, my God, thank you. Because, number one, they play in Germany. First game that's ever been played in Germany in the regular season. And think of what it's going to be like to promote Tom Brady with all his Super Bowl rings. And I think it's great for them. It is amazing, though. You mentioned he announces it on Selection Sunday. These quarterbacks have become such divas, such drama queens. I don't know where it happened, don't know what they're drinking, but they just have become drama queens. They want to say in personnel, they want to say in coaching, making, 40, 50 million a year just is not enough.
All right, John. Randy Gregory today, apparently Cowboys had a deal, and then all of a sudden they didn't have a deal. He ends up in Denver. And some people, depends on who you look, that's why we're asking you, some sort of clause that was in it that's mainly in all the various clauses. But that thing flipped pretty quickly as far as Cowboys and then Denver. Your thoughts about what happened to the Cowboys and Gregory? And they could end up with Von Miller or Chandler Jones instead.
His agent, Peter Schaefer, who lives in Denver, announced that he was staying with the Cowboys. $72 million, including 28 guaranteed. Then maybe he didn't read that standard Cowboys contract where if you get suspended, it's going to cost you money. I like that. I wish that was part of every contract. So he signed with Denver. Now, Gregory, I'm happy for him that he's turned his life around. Everybody that covered the Cowboys said he was a good guy. He just couldn't quit smoking pot. Well, now they don't care if you smoke pot, so more power to him. And if they end up with Von Miller or Chandler Jones, they're older, but they can still play. They might be better off.
John McClain, Sikkim 365 Radio with us on Tuesdays in the 5:30 segment.
John, what do you make of the Jaguars' rampant spending?
They're trying really hard to win March. They win March a lot because they can't win September, October, November, or December, or early January. It's interesting to watch how they're going about their rebuild. The Texans, in phase 2 of their rebuild, they don't blow a lot of money. They sign guys to a lot of 1- and 2-year deals. They're re-signing a lot of guys, where the Jaguars are spending a fortune on guys from other teams. And that bothers me. If you're a receiver on that team and you've been open to get a new deal, then here comes Christian Kirk as the third or fourth highest paid receiver in the league, not worth the 33rd or 34th highest paid receiver in the league, but good for him. That leaves some hard feelings, some bad feelings. I like the teams that spend the money on their players, like the Colts. They give their players big deals. They'll go get free agents, but they won't spend big bucks. The Jaguars do it. That's one reason they are perennial losers.
Why are they so tied to the hip with Trent Baalke, you think?
It's pretty obvious, Craig. He got in good with the owner, Shad Khan, because Shad Khan was willing to lose potential head coaches because Baalke was the general manager. And he had some really bad times with Jim Harbaugh in San Francisco. Doug Peterson, who was out of a job last year, and wanted to come back, I'm guessing old Doug would have agreed just about anything to be able to come back, be a head coach again.
All right, so Baylor has their game starting. The women, of course, lost to Texas. First time since 17. First time in a long time, though, before that. And the men, they kind of pooped the bed. A Thursday night against Oklahoma, they get the number 1 seed. The bracket is loaded with a bunch of logos. Your thoughts about Baylor? How deep do you think they can go, John?
I watched both games, and it made me sick, of course, but they still have 1 and 2 seeds. The women should have played so much better. Well, so should the men. At least the men got some excuses about injuries. But that second round matchup against North Carolina, I watched North Carolina beat Duke in Mike Krzyzewski's last game at Cameron Indoor Stadium, and they beat them up bad down the stretch. That's scary. That is a tough second round game. Do we know if Cryer is finally going to be back?
What we've been told, and again, Ashley Hodge reported this, that they were hoping they could push him this week, and what push means we don't know, for the opportunity for him to be able to have some sort of chance to play in any way once the tournament began. But again, it's all about not even pushing him, but also if in fact he can play, what is his cardio, basketball shape, and then how. What's his reaction if he plays again? Like after Texas Tech when they lost in Lubbock, we haven't seen him since. So it's up in the air, and it will be, I think, throughout the rest of however long they play.
And come back. If you listen to Fran Fraschilla, they're both going to be first picks in the draft when there's only room for one. So I'm hoping, this is terrible, but if Baylor loses, I'm hoping those guys have bad games and they have to stay.
Well, I'll tell you, John.
If they have bad games, they're going to lose.
Yeah, I mean, they could very well lose like 8 guys off this roster if it all goes against them. But, yeah, Keontae George, young guard that we haven't seen yet. That's a guy, John, to be on the lookout for starting next year, getting some good reviews. I did want to ask you, Aaron Rodgers, the contract news came out a few days ago, and then it was debunked, but everybody knew he's signing with Green Bay, but now official. Was there anything noticeable about his contract or any takeaways on your end?
No, what I noticed is when he ripped the reporting, he said, the report that said I signed. No, the report didn't say signed. That guy needs to now that he's got it out there, what's he going to do to get more attention? Now, he can pour gasoline on himself and set it on fire, but it's probably going to be more about his romantic interest because now he's gotten back with, what's her name, the actress, I forget.
Shailene Woodley.
But Shailene Woodley, who, by the way, was great in the George Clooney movie that was took place in Hawaii. I can't remember, The Descendants.
It's
great
fantastic.
movie, by the way. And so I don't know what else he's going to do to create drama for him. And then Brady stealing the thunder of the NCAA. It's just amazing, and I'm happy for Rodgers. He deserves it. It's always about the money.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it as always.
Thank you, guys, and sick 'em twice.
John McClain, Houston Chronicle, one of the best. His sources are incredible, impeccable, and also his love of the NFL and, of course, of his favorite, his alma mater, Baylor. When we come back, Paul Catalina.